So finally, Idubbz actually ended up dropping his response to the creator clash drama that was brewing a few weeks ago involving Froggy Fresh and how they unjustifiably kicked him out of the creator clash boxing event, and this really runs deeper than what a lot of people actually could imagine, and so we're gonna dig right into it. In a very weird way, it kind of just boils down to Sam Hyde versus Idubbz at the end of the day, and a lot of people are ending up picking sides and, coming to their own conclusions as to why everything went down when Froggy Fresh got kicked out of the event. And really, I'll put the knife to the table here and point out that everyone is really just shitting on Idubbz the entire time, and that's all I've been seeing, whether it be comment sections, other commentators. It's wild. Everyone just sees him as a complete failure, a piece of shit, a cuck, a simp. It just does not stop. Kind of funny to an extent, but it does get to a point when it gets a little bit annoying and unreasonable. It really comes to a point where I feel like Idubbz is holding himself to too high of a standard here and putting a lot of pressure on himself over his old content, because really it's not even that bad. It was a different era of YouTube, and a lot of people kind of needed that edginess in their lives. They needed that sort of expression. He does say a lot of good does bring a lot of bad, but also the same goes vice versa. A lot of bad does bring a lot of good, because he showed a lot of people that you can have a good time and be an asshole, and there wouldn't be anything wrong with that. I'll definitely be the first one to say this. Whenever I joke, I definitely just go too far. I cross the line all the time, and it ends up in me always having to not say a joke. So at what point do you draw a line when you're not being yourself? And I think that's what a lot of the audience is coming to realize, and they're really questioning, is that really the Idubbz that they were watching, and is the current one we have now a shadow of what we originally had? Idubbz is also very concerned about his content hurting people in the past, but even though a lot of people were quote-unquote hurt from this content, I obviously haven't seen it with my own eyes. I only know what I've experienced from watching Idubbz's content over the years and seeing everyone else express what they feel about this content. There may be a lot of hate that came his way, but I guarantee you, in the end, there was always a lot more love, even if he did the most crazy, outlandish shit on the internet. Next to Filthy Frank, of course, but we're not going to get into that. But the point I'm making here is that Idubbz actually has a really amazing legacy when it comes to what he did on YouTube, and it's something that we can all always look back at and enjoy, because honestly, we all knew from the beginning it was a joke. And that's where it comes to understanding Froggy Fresh's perspective on this entire matter. And I'm going to dig into that a little bit later. But when it comes to everything that Idubbz has done on YouTube, it is something that he really shouldn't be ashamed of. He may have a fan that he hates say something to him, say something that he'd rather not hear again that was repeated from one of his videos. But at the end of the day, he gave these people something. Even though in his mind it is something that's negative, and obviously maybe in other people's minds, because they're going to look at it and be like, oh man, I just had that kid say the N-word. But the thing is, I don't agree with it myself at all in the slightest, but it was always in good faith. So at least with that perspective, I can definitely understand where a lot of haters and Idubbz superfans are coming from. But man, I gotta say, Idubbz kinda has a really solid response for all of this drama, especially when we take into consideration the kind of perspective he lays out for Sam and Froggy. And I'm not gonna hold you, it really does make them look a little bit bad here, because I will admit, it's all fun and games for Sam Hyde to joke around and say shit about Idubbz and his wife. But at the end of the day, at some point, you do got to draw a fine line when it comes to jokes. And as much as a hypocrite as Idubbz may be for making edgy-ass jokes, it's kind of different when you're coming at Idubbz in a joke and then you're saying something about his wife. And I think this is something that is going over a lot of people's heads, because there's a difference between joking on Idubbz and just shitting on his wife, because this guy is literally just saying his wife is ugly, saying he's just on his wife's dick for no reason. I'm not gonna hold you.
I don't think so, Anissa. Bitch. Ho. Fucking Anissa. What an ugly piece of shit. But look how beat she is. Oh, nice jack-o'-lantern teeth.
That's like
I can't wait to see what she looks like when she's 32. Her teeth look like a pumpkin head. Like it's the Anissa hole stretcher. I'm sending this to Anissa's OnlyFans. It goes directly into charity.
Yeah.
Everybody hates him and his wife's a slut.
Calling her a bitch, a hoe, saying she's beat. I mean, at what point is it a joke anymore? You know what I'm saying? So I feel like that part of the argument really doesn't help this at all, because hypocrite or not, this dude is just kind of shitting on his wife, and that's pretty fucked up if you ask me. And as edgy as Idubbz may have been in the past, shitting on his wife and shitting on him are two completely different stories. You may not like his wife, you can call her a fucking whore for having an OnlyFans, but do you have to just shit talk her all damn day? I think you really don't. Because the "it's just a joke" excuse can be used only so many times, man. And obviously this is a subjective point of view, but really it's not like he's in the room with Idubbz and they're both shit talking each other's wives on some funny bro shit. This guy is in his own world just shit talking another man's wife, and that's really what it boils down to at the end of the day, especially from what I'm seeing in these clips. Now, if any of you can stand for another guy calling a motherfucker's wife ugly, I mean, I'm pretty sure most neckbeards that are watching this shit have never even been married in the first place, so they probably would stand for that shit. But I don't think most men who actually love the women around them would. Because when you're shitting on a man's wife, you're shitting on his manhood. And these Sam Hyde clips just show me that he does not have any respect for Idubbz' marriage, and that's pretty fucking shitty. No one has to like the fact that he's with Anissa, but the least everyone can do is respect it. And that's the difference between the adults watching the content and the kids stuck in 2016. And I will admit, I do watch some of the Sam Hyde jokes, and they are pretty funny, but if none of us can really understand the truth and the intent behind each and every one of these jokes, then it's gonna be hard for some of them not to come across disrespectful. And to be fair, if Idubbz literally did just let everyone shit talk and say everything about his wife like this, he would just look like a bitch. And it'd be way worse than looking like a fucking simp. You think it's acceptable to let anyone talk to your fucking woman any type of way? That's one thing I don't get about seeing all these comments on the internet. Everyone just acts like it's okay, it's fine and dandy, and like it's acceptable to just shit talk a man's wife. I don't understand or get that shit. It's just a perspective that a lot of these fucking neckbeards just don't seem to get. And I will admit, in the response video, when Idubbz does talk about respecting women, I will admit it is very cringe. And I kind of feel like it does kind of stir away the people that are already against him in the first place, because it's just reminding them of how much he changed and became soft, if you will. In the response, seeing Idubbz go like, oh, they do not respect women, it does give off some SJW vibes. And of course, they're going to think it's going to come from somewhere. And it's not right for people to assume, but I can see why. Now, we have these screenshots between Idubbz and Froggy Fresh. Idubbz will be the green, Froggy Fresh will be the gray. Hey dude, I just want to clarify that I'm not mad at you. I just want this event to go well. And part of that is trying to be proactive about things. I just want to find a solution. I really appreciate your friendship, and I don't want to feel like I've upset you. I don't understand what's wrong. Can I not work with Sam Hyde? He's been very nice to me. It's just a tricky situation. I personally have been hurt by a lot of things he's done. If he's your friend, that's totally understandable. I just don't get along with him, and I'm afraid of having him associated with the event. There are also others involved in the event that also aren't comfortable with. I can't really get the rest of the text because he doesn't show the rest. But moving on. Yeah, he's my friend. I don't understand what me going to Rhode Island to work with Sam has to do with anyone who is uncomfortable with him. They don't have to see or work with him. I agree. Privately, what you do is absolutely only your business. But because we are running a public charity event, we have to be careful about these things because you do represent the event in some ways. I had similar issues last year. I thought, no problem, Harley. You can work with Sam Hyde, but it ended up attracting a bad crowd, and I got harassed online about it a lot because it was a public display. That's nice of you to give Harley permission to work with Sam Hyde. I didn't know I needed your permission as well. For the most part, I do feel like Idubbz is being very reasonable with Froggy. I kind of don't understand why Froggy I don't know. I feel like I'm really getting the impression that he's really taking a jab at Idubbz, saying like, hey, I didn't know I needed permission from you. That's really unnecessary because if you clearly look at the text, he's explaining that, you know, it wasn't initially a problem, but then people ended up pulling up to Creator Clash 2, more specifically for the Harley fight, because they had their opportunity to try and, get their voice for Sam Hyde out there. And as we already know, Sam Hyde was the main reason as to why Froggy Fresh could no longer attend the event. It was not the OnlyFans joke, although, I don't know, to me, that kind of made a lot more sense. But go figure. It's not about permission. He just called and asked if I was cool with it because he was making content around it. So what are we actually discussing right now? If I work with Sam Hyde, are you going to prevent me from fighting in the event? He actively makes content about wanting my marriage to end, that my wife is evil and hasn't respected my boundaries. I don't feel comfortable having him associated with the event. I'm wondering if you can understand where I'm coming from on that. I can understand the way you feel. I'm sorry about that. But you also have to understand that he is my friend. So I can't just tell him I can't be friends with him because Ian said so. That's why I'm asking you if I can work with him. Are you going to prevent me from fighting in Creator Clash 2? It's not a reflection on you. It's just a very painful and difficult thing for me that I'm dealing with that I need to keep distance from, and that includes this project. I'd just appreciate a yes or no answer, man. I'm trying to figure out if I'm going to boxing practice tomorrow or not. It kind of depends on what your plan is because Sam Hyde is banned from our event. If you want him to be there, we cannot accommodate that. My plan is to go to Rhode Island to hang out with him, so again I ask, if I go work with him, are you going to prevent me from fighting in Creator Clash 2? I'd appreciate a yes or no answer. I have to talk to my coach about practice this week. Wait, I'm not sure I understand. Does that mean you aren't expecting him to be at the event? Are you going to make content together? I will admit it would have definitely been easier for Idubbz to give Froggy a yes or no answer, but honestly, if he would have gave him one of those kinds of answers, it would have just either made Sam Hyde really look like a bigger issue than he already is, and at that point, he would have basically been telling Froggy that he can't be around Sam, and honestly, that's pretty fucked up to do that in the first place, but I do think Idubbz was trying to give him the best of both worlds by allowing him to possibly train with Sam, but make it so that he would not have Sam be involved with the Creator Clash brand. He has not mentioned attending the event. I don't believe he intends to do so. I have not discussed this with him. I do intend to make content with him. Now that I've answered your questions, would you be respectful enough to answer mine? This event is really important to me, and I'm just trying to understand everything so I can make the best decision for everyone involved. I need time to think about this. I don't want to be rash. So I'm going to schedule practice this week because I'm going to hang out with someone you don't like. Okay. To be fair, honestly, I feel like Froggy is being very aggressive for no reason here. Although I can understand his frustration because Idubbz is being very indirect, but I don't think he's giving Idubbz enough credit here for trying to appease both sides of the party, with that being Froggy included, because I definitely feel like he was trying to work with Froggy here. He just needed time to think about it, but Froggy just let the frustration get the best of him and just continued to disrespect Idubbz. I don't understand why you're talking to me like this. I'm not trying to be a jerk. I explained to you the awful experience I've had with him. It potentially leads to another year of harassment for me and Anissa. I can't take this stuff lightly. Can you guarantee that it's not going to end up affecting... He didn't show the rest of this, but obviously he's talking about Creator Clash, so he was definitely going to try and overlook him working with Sam. As long as it does not affect the Creator Clash brand. This isn't just someone I don't like. This is someone who is dedicated to disrupting an event we're running for charity, harassing its two main organizers and sending his fan base to do his bidding. I want you to fight. I just want you to know the pain he's caused me, Anissa, and our event. Dude, because you're trying to tell me who I can and can't be friends with, I'm going to Rhode Island to work with Sam. I'm scheduling my practices for this week. If I'm being removed from the event, please let me know. Yeah, I really just don't get the interpretation of Idubbz' text from Froggy because he doesn't really say anything about, hey, you can't be friends with Sam, because obviously he's just trying to let Froggy know, hey, I'm not really happy with this guy's attachment to the brand, but we can find a way to work around this. And, Froggy's just being a fucking asshole to him, honestly. Really, I'm just seeing a huge lack of maturity here. I never said you couldn't be friends with him. I would just prefer if you waited until after the event to post content with him. And again, we're seeing Idubbz trying to work with him. Yeah, that's weird. I'm not the type of person that you can just make do whatever you want or what is convenient for you. I have a life and a family. You're not going to change my mind. I'm going to work with him. I'm trying to cook dinner for my kids. Sounds like your personal problems are interfering with your business. It wasn't my intention to dictate things to you. I just want to give you my perspective because we haven't talked about this topic before. Ultimately, it is your decision. I'm sorry the convo went in this direction. Okay, I'll fight. Thanks. Like, wow. Honestly, Froggy is just being a bitch-ass motherfucker right now. I'm not even going to hold you. It just clearly shows he has a huge lack of respect for idubbz in the grand scheme of things because there's just so many sneak disses and jabs he's throwing at him in these texts. You know, you could say I'm interpreting it one way, but there's no real other way to interpret this. The word choice is really just as clear as day, and I don't know why, but he's taking everything idubbz is saying as a personal attack. And idubbz' perspective really just becomes even more clear because if you're running an event and someone's talking to you like this, are you gonna put up with that? I'm sure as hell not. You got me fucked up. I feel like a lot of people are not really putting themselves in idubbz' shoes, so that really gives them like a very warped and shitty perspective because they kind of already come into this video deciding what kind of side they want to be on. And so I think now's as good a time as any to criticize idubbz. Now, what exactly is everyone's beef with this guy? Well, we do know that he's famous for Content Cop, and that is a video series where he would, shame a lot of content creators and criticize them for everything that they've done during their online careers. Any dirt on them was being brought up, and I guess you guys get the idea. For the most part, he was talking shit. At least that's what most people would like to interpret it as. And now, since everyone is talking shit about his wife, it doesn't seem fair game, and it seems hypocritical. Because how are you going to come at other people, and then when people come at you, it's now an issue? And, I think that's a pretty fair argument, but I think there's a huge problem because those people aren't coming at him. That's why I feel like a line should be drawn because they are coming at his wife. Of course, it should seem all fair game because he's coming at other people, but then again, he's never specifically attacking someone's wife or their girlfriend or someone's family member in that regard. And then again, when you want to break it down in the Content Cops, he mainly comes at these people for doing stupid shit like saying the N-word, criticizing them for actually genuinely doing terrible things. If you want to get down to business, idubbz was a hypocrite from the start because he came at people from saying the N-word and doing a bunch of edgy shit, but then he would go ahead and do the same thing. But now, since he's a hypocrite in a way no one likes, it's a problem. When it's cool to hate on idubbz, that's when everyone wants to call him a hypocrite. But no, when he's the golden boy of YouTube or anything else along those lines, him being a hypocrite then was just perfectly fine. But now, since it's okay to hate him, he's damned for hypocrisy. Gotta love the picking and choosing here. Now, when people are quote-unquote joking about his wife, saying that she's a whore, a slut, she's ugly, and then it's just a joke, man. I don't really think that's justifiable because at what point does that joke end up actually being slander and you just keep masking slander only to play it off as a joke and make it seem like you're not genuinely talking shit? For me, I feel like idubbz' underlying intent comes across pretty clear whenever he does say things like the N-word or anything else because it's pretty clear that he's joking. Now, the other side of the internet that does these things and always claims it's a joke when it could genuinely just be hate speech, and that's why I think it's very fair for idubbz to no longer want any part of the bullshit. Granted, I do think it's funny that Sam Hyde does call his wife a slut, but I would be mad if everyone was calling my wife a slut or a whore my damn self, and I do personally think idubbz should ignore these things because in a way, he is giving it a lot more power than he should. But if he does ignore it, everyone is going to think he's a bitch for not sticking up for his wife and letting people disrespect him and her on a day-to-day basis. So you can't win in any situation. Now, are you going to be the guy to let people talk shit about your wife? Or are you going to be the guy to punch someone in the face when they say something crooked about your woman? I think I know which one most of us would rather be in that situation. Now, I do agree that idubbz should ignore everything that's being said about his wife because, for the most part, I think he's been doing a pretty good job about it, especially when we take into consideration when she announced the whole OnlyFans deal. He dealt with all the jokes, and he was just living with that. But what he didn't like was people taking the OnlyFans thing as a personal attack. So I do feel like idubbz can take a joke for the most part because he does say that the people that were joking on his wife's OnlyFans were being reasonable.
Good amount of people are just doing the reasonable thing and just making jokes and laughing about it.
And I do think he is very reasonable when it comes to the criticisms and the jokes that everyone tells him online. Now, when it comes to doing business with someone and they're joking about your wife and you end up having to shake their hand and look them in the eye, it's going to be a little awkward and feel a little bit disrespectful letting them talk shit about your wife on social media and then just dealing with it in person. I think that's the main difference that a lot of people are forgetting in this situation, because Idubbz met Sam Hyde in person. And after meeting him in person, he's going to say shit about his wife on the internet. And then after meeting Froggy Fresh in person, or meeting him professionally, formally, if you want to go that far, because I don't know if he actually met Froggy in person, it comes to a point where in reality, there's only so much the ignoring can go. Because if it wasn't Sam Hyde, if it wasn't Froggy Fresh, someone he's also doing business with, I feel like it would have been ignored for the most part. And I think a lot of people are not really trying to understand the perspective here. Now, in Idubbz' video to go and try and use points against Sam and Froggy Fresh, I do think that a lot of these clips are taken after Froggy Fresh was removed from Creator Clash. A lot of people feel like Idubbz was being disingenuous for putting these clips in here, because it does give the notion that he was talking shit about Creator Clash and that was why he was kicked off. Because the main thing is that Froggy Fresh talking shit about Creator Clash was practically just the icing on the cake. You guys gotta remember, he got banned over Sam Hyde, not over shit talking. So whether or not he was shit talking before he was on the Creator Clash card or after, it really doesn't matter. Because you guys are failing to realize that he got kicked off before he had the opportunity to talk shit. So how could he be kicked off the event on the grounds of this shit talk when the shit talk happened after he got kicked off the card? I think the narrative that Idubbz is trying to lie to everyone purposefully in his video by using these clips and not showing the dates or the context in the video, I kind of feel like most people watching are kind of taking this perspective and changing it for themselves. I don't really feel like there was any intent to persuade the audience into favoring Idubbz' side, but I feel like the main objective was to show his perspective and why he would be upset with Froggy Fresh. But in conclusion, the main reason he was suspended was because of his involvement with Sam Hyde. Now, with Froggy Fresh's tweet, you could definitely interpret that he's really just trying to start a lot of trouble. When he had Dad or Nathan, dude, I tried hyping you up at Denny's when we ate dinner, and they said they weren't fucking with you, and you were gonna lose to AB, they don't even like you. I do feel like Froggy might have had the right intentions here by looking after Dad. He might have felt like Idubbz and Anissa were being fake, especially since they felt like Dad was gonna lose to AB, and Dad probably fucks with them heavy like he says. Now, I'm not sure if they said that they don't fuck with Dad or Nathan or not. I don't know, because, none of us were there in that situation. But from the Twitter space, Froggy just mentions that they think that Dad is gonna lose to AB.
When I was at fucking Denny's, I was all like telling them, yo, Dad's a fucking savage. And they're all like, no, Dad doesn't spar with high-level fucking competition. He's going to lose to AB. And I'm thinking, these motherfuckers are...
So who said that? Who said that?
Fucking Ian and Anissa. Like, that's the way these motherfuckers are. And then they got Dad, like, riding for them. They don't even... And if, like, I wouldn't be like this, but if everybody's going to keep calling me out, like, I'm the fucking person that's fucking shit up, like... That Dad's out here riding for them. They're all like, they don't even fucking give a fuck about him.
I feel like there's a fine line between them being fake and just being honest and thinking whether or not he's gonna lose. I don't think they were shit-talking Dad, but then again, it's hard for me to really say. But I do feel like Froggy, just in case, should have taken into consideration that it may come off as disingenuous, but they could have just been keeping it real with him and being honest and thinking whether or not he was gonna win. There are many times when I have some of my friends, or I see some of my friends actually playing basketball or something, and I don't think they're going to win in a fight or in a match or anything like that. And that doesn't take away from the respect and the friendship that I share with that person. But I do think Froggy was trying to be a real one in this situation, but I think not a lot of thought was really put behind thinking about why they would say that. But who knows, because I wasn't at the Denny's. All in all, I do feel like the video speaks for itself, and when it comes to all of the criticisms on the video, they're a bit wishy-washy if you want to ask me, like the dates of the clips involved, the irony behind Idubbz asking for people not to bully others when he bullied multiple people through his content, which is 100% true. Now, does it entirely make him a hypocrite? This is actually a really tough spot because from his perspective, people are shitting on his wife, and to defend that, he didn't shit on anyone else's wives. But also, his wife is a public figure and also uses social media. Then again, she is not Idubbz. I do think to really get Idubbz's point, you gotta put yourself in his shoes. As crazy as that sounds, because I wouldn't do any of the shit he does, but when it comes to the way he comes across as an SJW in the video, like I mentioned before, it's very fucking cringe. And honestly, maybe you could argue that he's only defending sex workers because his wife is one. And I personally do not care for sex workers. That's just my honest opinion about it. I don't really think it's viable, get your money, but I don't care for it. Now, do I deserve to be crucified for that opinion? Not in the slightest. Now, because Idubbz is downing Froggy Fresh for not respecting sex workers, it's looking like Idubbz is trying to put himself on some kind of moral high ground and just make Froggy Fresh look worse than what it's actually led to be. Because it really doesn't matter whether or not anyone respects sex workers or not. I feel like as long as we're not shaming them, there shouldn't be an issue. I don't have to agree with what a sex worker does, but as long as I'm not trying to publicly humiliate them or treat them like they're a lesser human being, then I do think that's a problem. And I don't really think that this view upon sex work should be glorified in the slightest, because they chose to do that at the end of the day. That's the way they chose to make their money. And if they get some kind of criticism from doing that, then that's just what comes with it. Just like with any occupation. Oh, you're a YouTuber. Oh, you're 30-something still working at Food Lion. Oh, why aren't you a mechanical engineer yet? But seriously, I think everyone should be spared from the pandering in this entire response, because an opinion is not going to make anyone look like less of a human being than you are. Everyone slandering Idubbz is very understandable, but I do feel like it's very unreasonable. I feel like a lot more people should try and understand Idubbz's perspective more, but of course they're not going to, because they're already pissed at him to begin with. And when it comes to his relationship with Anissa or not, I don't think there's a real definitive answer on whether or not she's changing him. I can see why people think that way, but none of us are actually legitimately gonna know whether or not that's the case at the end of the day. At this moment, it's pretty hard to say.